Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams, and today's video is going to be my top 10 favorite palettes for people with fair skin. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's video is going to be my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes for people that are snow angels. Like me. So yeah, I always say this in my intro. I have a fair skin tone with a cool to neutral undertone, which skews my makeup preferences very, very greatly indeed. And I thought I could come on here. I think I did a video like this before as part of eyeshadow palette month, but I thought I could update you and show you some pics of things that I enjoy that I feel work really well on my fair skin, so maybe they could be right for you as well. In case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I love coming on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, doing Essence and Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. And if you'd like to join the Snow Angel Club, then please click subscribe below and join my little family on here. So my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes for people with fair skin. Now, of course, fair skin again has different undertones. You could be more like warm toned leaning, more cool tone, neutral, olive undertone. Even if you are very pale, you can still have a different undertone, which is why I tried in my selection today to cater to all of those different undertones rather than just going with what works for me, because I can get away with almost everything because I have a fairly neutral undertone. I always say cool to neutral, because I do feel I lean more like smack in the middle neutral, meaning I can get away with cool tones as well as warm tone, like more orange leaning shades, you could say. I don't love those on myself though, so that's why I've decided to make a selection here that hopefully everyone, no matter what undertone you have, you can find something if you have a fair skin tone. I also want to come on here and say really quickly why I wanted to do this video. I have found that a lot of raved about eyeshadow palettes are just too dark for me, especially way back in the day when we had a little less like choice, you could say. I remember when the Too Faced chocolate bar was around. I initially skipped up on it because I didn't find the shades all that appealing. Plus it was very hard for me to buy because at the time Too Faced wasn't for sale here. But I did try that palette in the end, and I felt every single look I did with that palette was incredibly sultry and glam on me rather than perfect neutral everyday shades that just, you know, give you like a nice wash of color. So I very quickly found that a lot of the makeup that is sold is aimed at medium skin tones, light to medium, I would say. That's sort of like what they're really aiming for most of the time. But very pale and very deep skin is just left out of the equation very often. So that's why I felt that I just have to come on here from time to time. A lot of the reviews I do already take this into account to begin with, but if you are new to makeup and you have fair skin, or maybe you're just a makeup enthusiast like me, and you're looking for like some good pics of eyeshadow that's not going to look like you were punched in the face, because that's what happens. If shades are too deep for me, it's all just going to muddy together, look the same on my eyes. Like you have palettes that have like gradients of like dark shades. That gradient doesn't show up on me. I could put any of those shades on my lids and it's just going to look like a black. And speaking of black shadow, black eyeshadow is like the worst for me. I know a lot of people love black eyeshadow to deepen up looks, but for me, also with the way my eye shape works, I only like black eyeshadow as liner on me. I don't love it for deepening up shades because it just ends up looking I was punched in the face, which is just not a good look. So hopefully these 10 picks can help you find some picks for you that maybe you want to try, or maybe you already have those. Definitely leave a comment down below what your picks would be. I would be very curious to hear. Moving on to pick number 1. I think if you have a cool undertone, that a very overlooked eyeshadow palette is this guy. This is the Fenty Beauty number 2 Cool Nudes eyeshadow palette. And I know not everybody loves Fenty Beauty eyeshadow because they say they're not pigmented, but these are buildable shadows. And I feel that with my fair skin, if things are super insanely saturated, I don't really get the same blendability as with something like the Fenty, which is more of a buildable formula with more like satiny shimmers rather than really metallic ones. I feel that for everyday and like neutral looks, something like this just works a lot better on me. It has some like taupey, browny, gray leaning shades. We've got some pinks in here and then a pop of purple. Now the purple isn't the best, but it makes for such a pretty pop of something on the lower lash line. So the way this works for me is like a neutral palette with a pop of something. And that's how I use this palette, and it works beautifully. You get a dark enough shade to deepen things up if you have fair skin, but it's not a black, it's not a brown, it's sort of like in between a brown and a gray. Perfect taupey shade. You get a really great transition. This is a stunning lid shade. This one too, by the way. So yeah, you just get some really, really good things. Nothing here is too out there. Wow. I have reviews up with most of these palettes, by the way, so I can find links and put those in the description box for you if you want to see swatches and looks that I did with these, because very often I either have dedicated reviews up with every single eyeshadow palette I've ever tried over on the blog, or they're in a 10 palette review video. And on the blog, I have been updating my 10 palette review videos with all of the pictures of like swatches and looks that I've done with those palettes. So yeah, my blog is like this haven of all the information that if you want to see what something looks like, you can just go there. I can stick those pictures in every single video I do, but I choose to just pop them over on the blog, and then you can look at it anytime you like, and you don't have to sit through an entire 25-minute video to see some swatches. You can just scroll through it in 13 seconds. That's why. So yeah, the Fenty Beauty Cool Nudes, I think, is a perfect start to this video. Great cool tone neutral palette for people with a very fair skin tone indeed. But if maybe you don't have that kind of money, Fenty Beauty can of course be quite expensive, then the Essence I Like to Mauve It is one of my favorites at the drugstore. Again, a really pretty cool toned color story. The only thing I wished in this palette that it was different was that this gray wasn't the deepest shade, but that was a more saturated purple matte. Then I would have liked this palette even more, but I think I can see merit in it. This transition shade looks a little deep in the pan, but it actually isn't. And where it looks quite warm in the viewfinder, I feel that it goes perfectly with these purpley shades. I appreciate that we also get a blend shade here. Nothing in here is too deep, but you could use this, for instance, as liner or on the lower lash line, just to add that touch of a little bit more definition. But overall, this is really perfect for just being light-skinned and just having a good time with it, and it never looks like too much on you. Now, another palette that a lot of people don't rate very highly because it is so light is the Juvia's Place The Taupes Mini Palette. So this one I loved precisely because it wasn't so dark. Very often when brands do cool tone palettes, they feel they need to put in a gray and a black, and this doesn't have those. Nothing in here is super duper dark. And I love how in here we get all the different undertones of taupe that you could possibly wish for. You get the more neutral ones, you get the more gray tone leaning ones, and then you also get some more green tone leaning ones. So this has a little bit of everything. This can cater to a lot of people. If you have very fair skin and you want very neutral looks that aren't too much in your face, that don't make it look like you're a punch in the face, then this is a really nice one indeed. And you know how I feel about taupe eyeshadow. It is one of my favorite shades. So to get something this curated and small in this mini palette, I think that's a good one. Another more affordable pick that I would like to show you is this guy. This is the Catrice 5 in a Box Golden Nude Look, which I think is 010. This is still available, and in here you just get enough to make a look with. You could, if you don't want to, leave out this like darker brown, but if I go for a deep shade, these like chocolatey brown leaning shades are my favorites. And what I love about this dark brown is that it doesn't have a red undertone. It's a very cool tone dark brown. Yes. So in terms of a good neutral eyeshadow, that's, you know, a little bit warm toned leaning, but it's got a couple of cool tones to play up with it. I feel that this is a really good smack in the middle neutral palette at a drugstore price point. These have really cute Natasha Denona mini-like packaging. You get a full gradient of colors. You get an excellent crease shade. You get a really fun inner corner highlight here that has a bit of a golden flip to it. You get something to blend it out. Like if you feel this is too deep for you, you can bring this in and blend this over it to sort of customize your crease shade and not have it be too dark. The same will go with this shade, and then you just have this really stunning bronzy gold shade for all of the lid. This is a little bit more for those people who like more golden tones, or if you have a warmer undertone, this is going to look stunning on you. But we also need to cater to the bright colorful crowd. So if you have fair skin, you may find that a lot of bright shades can just look extra vibrant because you are so fair. A lot of the colorful eyeshadows on the market are very much aimed at medium skin, and very often you will find those creators using a very light base to make the colors pop even more. Whereas I feel I don't need a lighter base to make eyeshadow pop on me. It will pop regardless because I already have that kind of skin tone. So I have found that, especially when I started playing around with colorful shades, that a lot of it started to just look the same, and there wasn't a whole lot of variation within like bright colorful shades. Until I tried this. This is the Slush palette by September Rose, and I have shown this, I think, in every single palette where I want to recommend a colorful eyeshadow palette for people with fair skin. Why am I saying it? Everybody needs a good rainbow palette. Everybody. And this is the rainbow palette that I feel caters to people with lighter skin. Nothing here is overly saturated or dark. These are quite buildable, a little bit powdery actually. But on my skin, I felt they worked really well. In case you've ever wondered what eyeshadow I am wearing in the icon of my channel, it's this palette. Great blendability. We get a couple of shimmers in here to set off the mattness, but you do get a little bit of a gradient here in every single shade. So some of these lean a little bit more pastel. We get a couple of neons in here as well. And then we do get some deeper shades to darken things up with, but nothing is too in your face. And they aren't just a bunch of mid-tone bright shades, which is what most rainbow palettes are. And I feel that this is a palette that more people should know about. If you have fair skin, you want to try colorful shades, but everything looks a little too intense for you, definitely try this because this has a lot more softness to it. And I can't forget about this one. This is the ColourPop Go In Coconuts. I believe they still do this. And this has been one of my favorite picks when it comes to a full-on neutral color story. If you are like me and you're right smack in the middle and you don't want something cool toned all the time, then this is a really, really good one. You get enough like mattes to really set up the look. This is an excellent crease shade. We get a dark brown to deepen things up, and we get 3 full-on shimmers. This is a matte, like a sequin shade, which is not my favorite, but these 3 shimmers are incredibly great. And if you do have a warmer undertone, you get some things with a little bit of a yellow undertone. So if you lean it a little bit more warm toned, you can make this work as well. This is just a really excellent one. If you get one ColourPop palette, it's this one for me. Like if you're new to the brand, you've never tried them, this is my pick from the brand if you want to like a good neutral color story. You could go with one of the bigger ones if you want more options. They definitely do that too. But I feel there are a lot of superfluous shades in things like what's it called, the Bare Necessities and like the Stone Cold Fox. Those are good, like they're the same quality as these smaller ones. I just think that if you're buying something for the first time and you just want to try it, that something's more small and curated is going to give you a little bit more bang for your buck than something that's really big. But that's just me. I don't love really big palettes. Now we can't forget about our olive-toned, fair-skinned ladies. I haven't tried this palette though, I have to admit. But I just looked at this and I was like, this is going to be great for people with an olive undertone. And what am I talking about? ABH Nouveau. This is quite new to the market, which is why I haven't tried it yet, because I'm always a little bit behind on my reviews. But just look at these two like olivey tones. It's never like super duper dark, and you get enough like light shades to really make it work. It does have a really intense dark brown though, but that again can be worked into like for warming things up. Also, if you have a warm undertone, you get some really lovely warm tones in here too that I think can cater to a lot of people. Online, I felt this looked more cool tone now than like what I actually look at this in the palette at home. I feel there aren't that many cool tones, save for this and this like very light sagey green. So a few cool tones, but not too many. So I'm not sure whether you could do a full-on cool toned look with this. I think it caters more so to like towards like olive and warmer skin tones. Another really great neutral palette. So if for instance the ColourPop one is difficult for you to buy because you're in Europe, then my pick for a good like curated neutral color story would be this one from Nabla. This is their Cutie palette in the shade Nude. It's the first one they came out with. This does have a black, but it's one of their latex shadows, and I feel those incredibly like easy to work with. They're very blendable, very easy to build up, nothing too in your face. But you know, if we discredit that, this shade is like everything in terms of like a crease. You get some really intense shimmer, so if you like more textures in your shadows, then this is a really nice palette too. We do get a bit of a gold moment here. This is a pretty shade too. So when it comes to like good palettes, you know, sometimes it's nice to have a black for that liner moment. I just don't need it in every palette. You know what I mean? So when it comes to everything I'm showing you here today, that black I feel can actually be a nice added touch if these were the only 10 palettes you had. But yeah, this worked really well on me. It's still very neutral. It looks a little darker in the pan, I feel, than the way it goes on, because it is such a buildable, workable formula. You can very much play with it, tone it down. If you just pop this in the crease, and this all over the lid, and then this maybe on the lower lash line, and you've got a look, pop this in the inner corner, boom. You can do like easily like 3 or 4 different looks with these 6 shades, and you'll get a different look every time, even if you have fair skin. Next up is a discontinued eyeshadow palette, but there are color stories on the market that can give you a similar vibe. So I'll tell you about my alternatives as well. So this is the Feral palette from Menagerie, which was discontinued. It's another more colorful pick, and it's one of my favorite more colorful eyeshadow palettes in my entire makeup collection. So to me, it feels like a bit of a shame that you can no longer buy this. However, reds and pinks with greens and yellows is something that we see, for instance, in the Unearthly Cosmetics Strawberry Milkshake. So that's a good one. And also the Odin's Eye and Angelica Nykvist collab, the Hella palette, has quite a few similar shades to this, I feel. We get some really nice neutrals here as well. You can go in with a pop of teal, like this entire top row makes for a stunning look. You get some really, really cool shimmers. The shimmer formula for Menagerie I love. And this like pink moment, the pinks with a pop of green on the lower lash line is like my look of choice to do with this palette. This is a stunning palette. It's such a shame you can no longer buy it, but you can, I believe they still sell the singles from this. So Menagerie doesn't just sell palettes, they also sell their singles, and I believe they still sell the singles from all of their discontinued palettes. So you could put this color story back together yourself, or maybe just mix and match a few of these that you find interesting, but they do some really lovely colorful things. And then last but not least, I had to end it with a bang. We have the Natasha Denona Glam palette. We all know how I feel about cool tones. That's my favorite thing, and this is one of my favorite cool tone palettes in my collection by now. It's not too gray leaning. So many cool tone palettes are so incredibly gray. Case in point, what I'm wearing on my eyes today, which is a more recent cool toned release. But yeah, this is stunning. We get some really nice brown shades in here. We get some good transitions. The darkest shade in here isn't too dark. It's another really good cool tone brown, which I love. Mine seems to have a bit of heart pan though. Not sure what happened to it. We get some lovely taupey leaning shimmers. You do get a little bit of warmth, so if you do have a warm undertone, you can also create some looks with this for sure. But I feel that the Glam is one of the best cool tone palettes, and the Natasha Denona formula is just so easy to work with. You get some textures in here that are a little bit different from most eyeshadows, which is why I still think that even though this is a bit more expensive, it's still worth the price point, because it does do some more special things. But yeah, this is a great little eyeshadow palette, and I think if you just get one, and this is a great one, and it works really, really great if you have fair skin. It leans more shimmer heavy than a lot of palettes on the market today, which I prefer too. So there you have it. Those were all of the palettes I wanted to share with you today. My perfect top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes for people with fair skin. So let me know in a comment down below what your favorite picks are. I would love to know. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I'm coming back with much more content talking about all of the perfect palettes that I love in certain categories, and we're gonna end it with my eyeshadow palette collection video towards the end of the month. So definitely stay tuned for more, because this entire month we're chatting about nothing but eyeshadow palettes on here. Hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!